So you want to be a BRRRR star? Here's how you can get an Airbnb for free. Yes, you can both BRRRR a property and use it as a short-term rental. This is how I create massive cash flow while keeping very little money in any of my deals. Here's a burster that we did. We bought this property on Canmore for $207,000, put about $38,000 for the rehab. The property is currently valued at $330,000. So what is that when you do a cash out refi at 75%? That ends up being just under 75%, which is 74 and change. Because it's under 75%, we were fully able to recapture all our initial payment to buy the property, as well as our rehab costs. So when you're talking about burster properties, you're talking about a BRRRR property that has a focus in, rather than doing long-term rent, you're doing short-term rentals, right? So it's furnished. That's usually the biggest difference between long-term and short-term. Doesn't mean it has to be furnished, but in most cases, this is the case.
They're expensive, but you can afford it.
Because of that, there's a furnishing cost to this. In this property, we decided to do a music theme. It was actually one of our first themed properties we ever did. One room had all the classics, another one had all rock and roll, another one had R&B and rap, and of course, we had to pay homage to the Motown world. So in the basement, it's all Motown style singers. What we found was the theme was super helpful in making sure we had higher occupancy, which led to higher net income because people had rave reviews about it. They said, man, this is such a cool place. This is so fun to stay at, things like that. I really enjoyed looking at the art on the walls. And because of that, we've been averaging about $5,000 in gross income per month ever since we opened up. Our furnishing costs at the time, including setup and paying for some labor, were about $15,000. So you got to figure that $15,000 in addition to what it costs for the rehab and the purchase, that does add up. So instead of $245,000, we're looking at $260,000. So once you add in the furnishing costs when it comes to a full BRRRR where you get all your money back, in terms of the furnishing, we were not able to refund the full furnishing cost. So when you're making almost $5,000 a month, minus your mortgages and expenses and any additional costs there are to run or maintain the property, you're able to make up that $15,000 in furnishing costs pretty quickly, definitely in less than 6 months. So naturally, if you do a deal like that, you're gonna wanna find another deal like that, maybe another 30. So how do you find a deal like that today?
Today is history.
So here's a property that's on the market today. It needs some love, some major love. But because it's a smaller property and because it's such a dense market, if you don't wanna hold the property, you can still flip it and that's some pretty significant profit. So let's take a quick run through this property. They want $125,000 for this. It's about 1,000 square feet. And we can already see, okay, we're gonna need a driveway. We're gonna need to do paint, flooring, new light fixtures, probably, yeah, definitely a new kitchen. And then we're gonna do a new bathroom. And on this property, there is a basement. It looks like it does need a cleanup. So we're gonna plan to gut everything, get a new furnace in there because I'm sure it's gonna need it. And oh, good God, what happened to that garage door? Okay, we're gonna need to add a little bit more money to this. And it looks like it's gonna need a new roof. So we're gonna do an all new roof. We're gonna probably cut down this tree while we're at it. And voila, we will have a new home. We spent about $35 a foot on a mid-level flip in the Metro Detroit area. So in this situation, we're looking at about $35,000 off the bat. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add a roof on there. We can typically get roofs of this size done because it's a 1-story, probably for less than $5,000. We're gonna call it $5,000 though. So we're at $40,000. So now that we did a preliminary run through of what the rehab looks like, based on our visual inspection of the photos, we're gonna start to put those numbers in so we can get an actual calculation to validate whether or not we're on the right track with this being considered a BRRRR or a burster property. I put the link in, I pulled some of the information in from Zillow right here, how many units it is, and automatically, this is a pretty rough property and they priced it accordingly, but I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna tell them I'm gonna close this in 2 weeks and I'm going for $100,000 on this property. Based on what I'm seeing right now, I'm actually seeing $190,000 for a properly done 2-bed unit with a garage. And then for the furnishing, because we've gotten really good at it and I'm pretty sure I can still make this a really awesome theme, I'm actually gonna be at $12,000 because I'm able to do it in-house. If it was out, if I had to hire this out, this would probably cost $16,000 to $18,000 to get this done. When it comes to furnishing, it really depends on the quality and theme that you're trying to produce. When you're in a dense metro area and you know you can get it rented without being anything over the top, you can typically get it done for $10 to $15 a square foot. If you're really good and you've been doing this a while, you can sometimes get it down as low as $8 per square foot. So for this situation, I'm gonna do a higher end theme because I am starting to get more competition in the area, and me doing $12 a square foot is probably the equivalent to most people trying to do $18 or even $20 a square foot. $12 a square foot times 1,000 square feet, 12 grand. As for the rehab, we have a lot to do. I think when we ended, we were at $35,000 in just the baseline rehab, plus the $5,000 for the roof. And I'm gonna add another $10,000 for the driveway. So we are already at $55,000. And while I'm at it, I'm gonna go ahead and add a hot tub because I just want to. And for that hot tub, because I'm doing all the other work and I'm gonna have to do electrical, I'll probably be able to get a little discount. So I'm gonna shoot to come in close to 63,000 in rehab. So now that we've put in these baseline numbers, we're gonna go ahead and see what the calculations are spitting out toward the end. Since we are planning to do an STR, what you're gonna see is I've already looked up and researched some of the comps in the area. Here's a link to one of the comps. This one's making 62,000. So when I do my research on my competition to see what the other short-term rentals in the area are doing, I'm looking at the actual comp, I'm saving the link. I'm looking at how much money it has made or they suggest it will make. And you need to understand that difference as you get deeper into this. Third, I'm looking at what kind of reviews are they getting. Now, if it's really good reviews or bad reviews, I want to know how or why. And I also want to see how many reviews, because that lets me know how often it's been stayed at. In this case, this one didn't do well, so I'm gonna take the 62,000 with a grain of salt. This one made 51,000. It's doing really well. It actually has a lot of reviews as well. I've already looked into that. This one's at a 4.9, it's making 51,000. This one's only making 15,000. So this is a bit of an outlier. We should probably figure out what's going on with that eventually. But isn't that a range? But what a range, that's 62,000 to 15,000. My guess is this one has not been on market that long. It's unusual for it to be that low. I don't have any properties that make that little of money. Most properties in the area I've seen between 40 and 60,000 is what we've been able to make. Some of our properties are making six figures. In this case, when you add it all up and figure out what the average is, I'm coming up with a number of 45,000. Because we're gonna add that hot tub, I'm actually gonna boost this up because on average, these hot tubs bring in another $10,000, be it due from higher nets per night or just occupancy improvements. It adds about $10,000 per calendar year. So let's call it 55,000, which again is not exceeding that higher comp of 62,000. In this situation, we're gonna presume that there's gonna be about 6 cleans per month. And right now we're able to do our cleans at about $1 per square foot. So it's costing us about $100 per turn on a 2-bedroom, 1,000 square foot property. So that's about 607 as you can see. And based on the area and what we've been dealing with between getting internet and all the other utilities, we're at about 390. Now you need to consider your snow and lawn care. In our area, we're able to do bi-weekly cuts and also take care of the snow for on average $50 per month. Beyond that, I always recommend you have a little bit of supply and maintenance built into your budget so you can make sure that while you're holding your property, in case anything kind of comes up over the year, you have a little bit of buffer fund being built. Then you have to figure out your property taxes. That can depend on your city, state, and school system. In this case, we're anticipating just under $2,000 a year for the property taxes. So in this situation, we're expecting an 8% interest rate and we're gonna be getting a 10% down purchase. Now, mind you, if you're doing a fix and flip financing loan, you're gonna have probably a 10 or 11% interest loan. And at that point, you can also get 90 to 100% financing, which is something that we've been able to unlock because we've done so many deals with the right lenders. And if you're interested in that, feel free to reach out on that as well. But in this case, we're gonna use a 10% down loan at 8% interest rate, which is gonna get us a mortgage payment of $931. When you're looking at the total monthly cost to hold the property, the total should be about $2,078 per month. Why do you need to know this? Because your holding cost matters. You hold this for 5 months, it's over $10,000. You need to keep that in mind when it comes to how you're gonna balance out your cash flow. Just having enough to buy a property is not always enough. You need to make sure you have a buffer fund as well. This is my point. And when you get a mortgage, there's always gonna be some type of closing cost. It can depend on what banking institution you're working with, the loan type, and your own financial situation that will determine what your closing costs are. In this case, we're using 2.5% as a good standard of operating. Here we have our 10% down. If we're buying it at 100,000, it's gonna be 10,000. So what is the total cash needed to actually take this deal down at this point? We're looking at $87,250. Now, there's one caveat to this. If you were to do a fix and flip financing loan, you could actually cover all of your rehab costs as long as your rehab plus acquisition costs stay under a certain loan to value threshold of the purchase price. So if the total purchase price and rehab budget were all under 150 and the after repair value was 200,000, you would be under 75%. And most lending institutions will allow you up to 100% of the rehab costs. So in the example I just gave you, if there was a $200,000 after repair value and you bought the property for 100 and you were able to keep your rehab budget at 50,000, that's 100 plus 50, that's 150, that's 75% of 200,000. So in that case, The only cash you would actually need to perform the deal would be the 10% down for the purchase, which would be the $10,000. And then you would be given a line of credit for that extra $50,000 until you complete the project. Now, like I said, prior to that, you need to keep in mind your holding costs, because just because you took out the loan doesn't mean that you haven't sustained a holding cost. In this case, we're looking at about $2,000 per month. So if it takes you 4 months to do this, that's $8,000. So you put your down payment of $10,000, then you had your $8,000. So you need almost 20 grand just to run this project when it comes to the purchase price plus the holding cost until you sell it, presuming you're using a fix and flip loan. In this case, we're just doing an acquisition loan. There's no fixed portion to this loan that allows for a line of credit for the rehab. So that's why the total cash needed is right here, the $87,000, which is the down payment, the mortgage costs, the rehab, and the furnishing. So if everything works out the way we're anticipating it to, you should net about $2,500 per month on this deal, giving you a cash on cash return of 34%. Anytime you're above 30%, that's awesome. And what I do whenever I'm reviewing deals is I always look at the cash on cash return, what it could refi at, how much cash flow is it actually producing? Because the dollars matter, right? And based on those factors, I'm giving this deal a 2.7, which is one of the highest rankings I give any of my properties. Okay, so what we've all been waiting for is, how is this gonna be a BRRRR? If we didn't have the furnishing costs, if we were just buying this as a long-term hold, meaning you just buy it, you put it back on the market to rent it to a long-term tenant that's not looking for a furnished stay, you would have less capital in the deal because you wouldn't have paid for the furnishing, right? And because of that, you could potentially have a perfect BRRRR, meaning you have no money in the deal by the time you do the refinance. But because we have the furnishing cost, there's probably gonna be some money left over, which is very common when you're BRRRRing short-term rentals. So because of the furnishing cost, you're probably gonna end up having 18% left in the deal. At this point, let's consider the total loan amount we've taken out in addition to cash above and beyond that. That total amount is $177,000. Once we do the refinance, because the ARV is $190,000 and the loan type for cash out refis usually limits you to 75% of that value, that gives you a max value cash out of $142,500 minus the $177,250 leaves you with $34,750 in the deal, which is 18% of the new property value left in the deal. So as you can see, that's just one of many of the deals that I'm constantly underwriting and checking on literally every day. And just like anything, when you wait too long, things start going pending. Here's my pending list. And some of these deals were knockouts. I send this list out twice a week. So if you're looking to get into more deals, particularly burster deals or even vacation rental specific, more turnkey options, we have both. We send out 2 emails every week, one for vacation focused buyers and one for metro dense cities that have burster opportunities. If you're ready to pull some triggers and take some action,
are you ready to begin?
If you're ready to get started buying your first or scaling to 10 short-term rentals, check out the link below. My name is MyBrokerMatt. I'm an Airbnb coach and Airbnb operator. If you want more videos like this, make sure you hit like and subscribe, and feel free to shoot me a comment with any questions. I'd be happy to answer that in my next video. I'll see you in the next one.